What is going on, everybody? Man, Eric Wilson for the Sports Arena, and I have a very talented and exciting guest joining me today here on the program. So, I had the pleasure of meeting this young woman at the Black Sports Business Symposium in Atlanta, Georgia last month. And there was something about her energy that I was like, I want to know more. I want to talk to her more. And it might have been the fact that we were in the room with ET, the very own Eric Thomas, and just listening to him speak to us in such a very just powerful and humble manner. I think everybody left that room with so much energy. Come to find out, this young woman that I'm speaking to today, not only is she a CEO of Team Empire Sports, but she also is the youngest sports agent in the world. Let me say that again for people in the cheap seats to make sure y'all see what I'm saying. I am talking to the youngest sports agent in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome again the CEO of Team Empire Sports. This is Shyra Johnson. Shyra, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Sports Arena.
Thank you for having me, Eric. It's a pleasure.
So let's jump right into this because I got to know, at 21, you became the youngest sports agent in the world. Take my listening and viewing audience through how this all came about, because so many of us, we don't really know what we're going to do or really understand who we are until we get a little older. But you are already honing and doing your craft at a very young age. So, Queen, much love to you, because you are setting a precedent for women just all over.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, for me, it was my father. It was back in ninth grade. He presented the career opportunity of, have you ever thought about becoming a sports agent? My whole life, I played sports. I loved school as well, so I had a really great balance. But my cousin happened to be the star athlete in the family, being a women's basketball player. And so ever since, imagine, like, I'm the first in my family, first gen student to even think about going to college. And you're thinking like doctor, lawyer, some sort of career along those lines. But ever since he said, have I ever thought about becoming a sports agent? I've never looked back. I have, chose strategically my university. I attended Florida Atlantic University starting in 2018. I received a full academic scholarship. Now, what made that one different was that it was underneath the university president and it was donor based. And so it was the first of its kind. I was cohort 2 out of 15 students chosen to receive this scholarship that paid for everything and then some for up to 4 years. And I came in a sophomore, so I was already focused and knew what I needed to do. Within my 3 years at Florida Atlantic University, I networked like crazy. I told anyone and everyone my dream. I went from working at McDonald's to PF Chang's, and I worked in sport, but I never got paid. I just kept on to holding on to this dream. I graduated a year ago with my bachelor's in business management, minored in business law. I got into my master's a year ago. I also got that paid for, so that's a blessing. So through and through, my education was paid for. I was blessed with mentors and a great support system to be able to just focus on my dream. I started studying last like September 2021, and I sat for the exam in February. I have no idea how I passed the exam, but I did, God willing. And yeah, I became the youngest agent. So that was an attached dream. I knew I wanted to become a sports agent, but I knew Drew Rosenhaus was 22 and that I would be 21 when I took the exam.
I mean, listen, there is so much to unpack right there. I can't even begin. I don't even know where to start except to say you created something not only for yourself or something. Let me rephrase that. In all in your endeavors, things were being created for you that you weren't even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about the scholarships. You talk about the fact that at 14, you knew, based on a conversation you had with your father, what you were going to do with your life. And
Mm-hmm.
in 7 years, which for a lot of people, they say cherish your years in high school because that's some of the best times of your life. In that time frame, you were already setting yourself up for success. And it still is mind blowing to, because listen, I'm twice your age, okay? And I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going, what I'm doing. I know what path I want to go, but you dialed yours out. You were like, no, I'm getting this done. I'm moving forward. This is the direction that I'm going. There is no plan B. It is only plan A. Can you just speak to me about that mentality? Because I feel so many people, young, old, white, black, don't matter, today, I feel like they lack that. They lack that driven purpose to say there is no plan B. Aside from your father, where else did that constant discipline and motivation to be successful, where did that come from?
So it was my parents. They had us at the age of 16 and 17, my brother and I, and they had no parental guidance. My dad, literally, he was picking peanuts ever since the age of like 8 or 9. My mom didn't have a fortunate upbringing. And so I can promise you, ever since I was born, I heard from my parents' mouths, you have to go to the military or you have to figure out how to get your college paid for, but that is your way to success. They knew that they couldn't provide it for us, and we had to go seek it out there. We had to be different. That statement of being different is what really guided me. Everything that I did, from the friends that I hung around, me working at McDonald's when none of my friends wanted to work there, they asked why. That statement of being different is what drove me to be able to just stay so focused. Now, of course, I got a little deviated, but my dad likes to say I was a really great listener. And I really apply that to my life now. Ever since I stepped foot in college, I listen to stories. Like, I want to block as many unfortunate circumstances. Like, I don't want to go down roads that are unnecessary, and I can just listen to other stories. Motivational wise, I've always had vision boards and dream boards. My dad raised me on Steve Harvey, Deion Sanders, all these old school mentalities. And so I've just looked up to the very highest individuals who really, went through some experiences to get to that level. And so I don't know, I've just always in my mind, I've just dreams bigger and larger to be able to do something larger than myself. And even my dad can't even understand how I can dream so big.
So answer me this question then, because we had the privilege of being in the same space with Deion Sanders at the Black Sport Business Symposium. What was that like for you to be able to, you said that your parents used to reference Steve Harvey and Deion in having those conversations with you. So when you were at the symposium and all of a sudden he walks on stage, talk to me about that moment, just being in his presence and listening to him.
So actually, this wasn't really well known, but I had a conversation with Dion months prior over FaceTime. And I knew he was going to be there. And through meeting some of his football players and his manager, I actually was backstage with him prior, and we had a conversation. I was hanging out with, all the individuals he brought along with him, and I sat next to the group. And he invited me to spend the following day with him. And so, what was really even crazier, the two people I mentioned was Steve Harvey and Deion Sanders. I actually ended up spending the entire day with Deion Sanders and Steve Harvey's executive producer. And so it's just like crazy, like you said, it's just like these opportunities are just like, they just kind of unfold for me. And I like just kind of state these things and say that these are kind of things I want. And then here we are. So the experience was magical. Like, it was a dream, and it was just crazy to be able to be in the moment. Now, when I was in the moment, I wasn't like, I'm not like, how fans can be. No, I was taking in it spiritually kind of, and just really taking note of how an individual like himself, how he interacts. I mean, just watching him before he went on stage, he's very humble. He listens to his music. He says, his prayer. He kind of has his routine, and it was just so humbling. And he's amazing. I can't thank him enough for that experience and the ones that we'll continue to build moving forward.
So let me just say this. What she basically said to all my viewing and listening audience is, y'all need to start manifesting what you want, because when you do that, then you get to see the fruits of your labor. Listen, shameless plug. I tell all the gentlemen that I meet at the National Scouting Combine the exact same thing when they give me the politically correct answer of, oh, I'll go play for any team that'll take me. I'm like, no, you need to start manifesting what NFL team you want to go play for. So I so appreciate you saying that because it is very true. It resonates with those who actually understand that we are meant to be the best version of ourselves, and we limit ourselves a lot of times with thinking that we don't belong in these rooms or these spaces aren't reserved for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just one of those huge proponents where I continually tell people you are just as good, sometimes if not albeit better, than the individual in that room. So tell me why you can't be in that room. I want to transition here, speaking again with the CEO of Team Empire Sports, the youngest sports agent in the world, Miss Shyra Johnson. Where did the name Team Empire Sports, where did that name come from?
Yeah, so Team Empire Sports is a sports and marketing agency, right? So we deal with both representation from NIL all the way through professional sports and have a marketing focus. The name was, again, just something that was kind of put out there through different signs. And so I had went home about 2 years ago and I was like, Mom, I need to really come up with the agency name. Mind you, I always said I wanted my own sports agency by the time I was about 30 years of age. I never sought to have it coming right out of college. And so when I was saying this about 2 years prior, I was saying to be able to add it to my vision board. Because again, I have these vision boards that I really utilize. And so one night we actually watched Bling Empire, which is on Netflix. It's these like rich Asians, and no lie, my mom woke up the next morning and she was like, Shyra, I have the name. It's gonna be called Empire Sports. And I was like, huh. She's like, you always say you want to build your own empire. I have a picture on my vision board that's like on a mission to build an empire and leave a legacy. That's what I always say. And so, after coming back from being home, I thought about team. I didn't want an agency with my name attached to it. It just doesn't fit for me. And I thought team because that's what this is about. Sports are a team. I know I would never be able to pull off a sports agency on my own. That's not how business works. That's not how life works. And so through and through, it just has very meaningful parts. And the slogan we have is think different, be different. That comes exactly where I told you. My dad said you have to be different. And it comes from thinking to be able to act. Right. And so that's everything just kind of parlays into my life and things that my parents have taught me and things that I want for myself. And that's how Team Empire Sports came about.
Wow, that again, I'm loving this conversation more than you could ever even imagine. Just learning from someone younger than me who is so dedicated to her craft, who is so well versed in what she is doing, and has the wherewithal and the knowledge to have the discipline, the commitment, and the focus. It's amazing. So, Shyra, speak to me about Kelly Masters.
That woman, she's changed my life. Kelly, again, when I was 14, I remember, okay, sports agent, and I Googled top woman sports. Or I think I was just top sports agent in general. And I promise you, her name came up, Kelly Masters. I re-Googled this. I remember working at PF Chang's as a hostess one day, just kind of re-sparking that interest. And then this is why I always talk about the importance of mentorship. It was the Miami Super Bowl. When the Miami Super Bowl was here, and I live in Boca Raton, a mentor told me about this opportunity to go to this women in sports brunch. Had no idea about it. She paid for me to go. I'm the first one there. I made sure to get there early. And I had heard that, Miss Lisa Joseph was going to be there. She works with Dwayne Wade. I knew Kelly Masters was going to be there. All these different people. That was the day, one of the days that I will never forget because I met Kirsten Simmons and Kelly Masters. Those are the first agents I've ever met. And I started crying. So I met Kirsten first and then I met Kelly and I cried both times. And she was fortunate, or she was very kind to give me her phone number. And so we've stayed connected since. We've had so many phone calls. She is who told me that I was going to have my agency before the age of 30 years old. I was on the beach and I was telling her my dream, and she's like, no, Shyra, like, you will have it before then. I don't really see you working for a large agency, so that you have the talent, you have everything you need to do to go do this. And that was when I was, yeah, like 20, and here we are a year later, and it happened. And so she's like another mother. She's that person that you need in your life spiritually, everything, very well rounded. And she really is just, she always answered my text really quick and picks up the phone for whatever I need.
That's crazy.
It is.
So let me ask you this, because we have a very similar background as far as transitioning from the restaurant world to the sports world.
Mm-hmm.
Share with me like what that because I think I have a pretty good idea of just some of the life experiences that come with going from that type of industry into the industry that you are in and that I am in as well, in this sports media, sports agency world. Talk to me about how some of those experiences have kind of helped shape, you know, what to look out for, if you will, the do's and don'ts in as a sports agent.
I really love that question. I've never been asked, so thanks for asking. I really feel like it's enabled me to do certain or develop certain skills. So I always tell people that want to become agents, I said you have to self-assess yourself along the journey before even starting. Right. And so I just kind of started recognizing, because when I came to Boca Raton, I didn't know a soul. Like, I didn't know anyone. And like I said, I just went from working at McDonald's to P.F. Chang's. P.F. Chang's happened to be right across the street from the university. So it was very, it was just, it made sense. And so throughout that journey, I mean, as a hostess, I found myself just talking and being very vibrant, and going into serving and whatnot. I just started networking. Like, I would walk up to a table. I met people whose daughter works at the NBA. Another gentleman worked for ESPN. So I just started recognizing the power of just walking up to people, talking to them, and you just never know who knows who. And so I just did a lot of that, like searching and really correcting myself and making sure I was built out for this career. And on the business side of things, I always tell people, when I worked at McDonald's, I was doing everything. You have to wear multiple hats as an agent. And so it makes sense that when I was at McDonald's, I was doing the cashier, bagging the food, cleaning the place. I was interested how systematically it all worked, from there being the employees to the management, trucks coming in to deliver the food. And so my mind was always curious in that kind of fashion. From the business side, I always talked about improvements and what can be done. Um, and then on the day to day work structure. And so it's just so crazy how it folds all together, and it allows me to be in the position that I am today. And so, although someone can be working in service, you have to be able to understand why you're in that position at that moment, and just work so hard, because again, you don't know how that's going to transition. But the service industry, it resonates with people. And this guy told me, he goes, you need to state in rooms that you worked at McDonald's, because that will tell people the work ethic that you hold, and what you have done and were willing to do to get to what you wanted to do.
Okay, all right. I listen. It's one of those things that I love talking to people, and I love, as I always say, peeling back the layers and really getting a deeper understanding of a person's, just chemical and mindful makeup. And you being the age that you are, because I know we're not allowed to talk about women and their ages, but being so young and so dialed into just who you are as a person has given me, I'll be very transparent, has given me such a warm feeling of the next generation really has their stuff together, because
Mhm.
it's individuals such as yourselves and individuals who I met at the Black Sport Business Symposium, and the gentlemen, the athletes that I meet at the National Scouting Combine, who just kind of give me a reassurance as I go into my old head phase, if you will,
Mhm.
of just wondering, you know, especially when I see young black and brown men and women who are just so dedicated to their craft and like, no, I don't have a plan B. I'm going this direction. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. And I'm just like, wow. Like I wish I had that, because for me, it was very structured. It was high school, the whole nine. But I mean, it's impressive, and I'm very humbled to have this opportunity. One last piece before I let you get out of here,
Mm-hmm.
because I need you, as I always ask my people when I interview them here on the Sports Arena, I ask them to leave me with a lasting message that I can share with not only my viewing audience, but with, I'm going to say in this case, your generation, to all the young black and brown men and women out there who see Shyra Johnson, the youngest sports agent in the world, and you look like them and they look like you. Talk to me about, or just give me a lasting piece of advice that I can share with them.
Well, I would say, and this is something that, again, I really do a lot of reflection, and I've been reading this book, or I just finished, called The 5 a.m. Club. I would tell any person to read it. I really share it with adults, but if you have a very advanced mindset for, between 18 and 25, please read it, because there's so many life gems in there. But I really think it comes down to how you share your story. So I personally didn't realize this about myself, but I never felt imposter syndrome. I never played the victim role. And when I read that book, it talks about it like midway through the book, and it talks about how we share our story is what creates our reality. I never saw, I kind of lived my life through my parents' story. I was fortunate enough to not have gone through too much, but I use my parents' story to drive what I'm doing. So all that they've been going through, the struggles, I feel like it's in me. Not that the weight is on my shoulders, but it's within me. And the way I encourage others to share their stories, that they got to go through what they're going through. So this weekend I was with some girlfriends of mine, and unfortunately, she has had some issues in her past from like her mom. And I was like, look, it's very unfortunate, but you are getting to go through these things. One, it's always worse. Two, it's going to make you into the woman that you are. And so as we begin to share our stories, just like what we're doing right now, no matter if it's a stranger that you meet, if you're networking, you have to begin to cultivate a mindset of, you have to be the optimist. A lot of people tell me you're so optimistic. I don't know how I became this way, but you have to understand there's a sense of the world, how it could always be worse, and that we are still very fortunate no matter what we are going through. And my mentor, Mrs. Peters, she helped me realize that, because she's from Italy, and she's like, look, there's young girls sitting on the side of the street right now that would love to be just sitting in a classroom to learn. Right. And so just recognizing all the blessings that we do have on a day-to-day basis, and really recreating the reality that you have in your mind, and really taking the work to do that. So although it may not be there today, make sure that day by day, thought by thought, opinion by opinion, you cultivate something that is just really optimistic, very positive, and just to help you go through the struggles that you're going to go through. Having a positive story and outlook on your story and your life and your chapters thus far will set you up further than anything in the world, because an opportunity can be handed to you, but if you're not in the right mindset to take hold of it and take heed, it's not going to work out the way that you would hope.